What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a lovely day today and I hope it gets even better from watching this video. Today I am so excited. We're talking about one of my favorite topics, which is dating, relationships, and how to get what you want when it comes to your love life. I'm very passionate about this topic because I did a full 180 when it comes to my own dating love life a few years ago. I was very unhappy, not satisfied. There were things that I wanted, like a healthy, beautiful relationship, and I knew exactly like which qualities I wanted, and then I kept on choosing like the opposite, and I found myself in situationships, just dating kind of toxic, unhealthy people. And I got to a point where I was so sick of it. And I finally took a pause, looked at myself and was like, girly pop, like who keeps choosing these people? Like you're the common denominator here. So let's do something about it. Because I honestly got to a point where I was like, I'm so sick of it. I would rather be single for the rest of my life than keep doing what I've been doing. So the things that we're gonna go over in this video are some of the things that I did and learned throughout that whole process and the process of then being in like a healthy relationship that I really hope are going to help you. Some of these you can do before you even start dating someone, so you can really be proactive about this. And then some of them are going to be like rules, standards that you're going to hold yourself to when you actually meet someone and start dating them. When my last situationship ended, which at this point it's probably been like 6 years, it was a long time ago, I was so over it that I got my ass back into therapy and I was like, we need to figure this out. Okay, I need some professional help. So that is one thing I cannot not mention. I'm a massive advocate for therapy. I think it's so amazing when it comes to getting to know yourself and figuring out these unhealthy patterns, where they come from and how you can actually practically change them. So an amazing resource if you want to try out therapy is BetterHelp, and they're actually sponsoring this video. Obviously, it can be a little scary and intimidating to start therapy, especially if you're doing it for the first time, but BetterHelp makes the whole experience a lot easier and a lot more comfortable. It's online therapy, so it's totally up to you if you do it through a phone call, a video chat, or even through messages. And you can schedule a therapy session at a time that's actually convenient for you and from the comfort of your own home. BetterHelp basically connects you with a licensed therapist who's trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. You can click the link in the description box or visit betterhelp.com/Nika if you want to give it a try. It's really, really easy to get started. You basically fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs, and then you'll get matched with your therapist in most cases within 48 hours or less. If the therapist you're first matched with doesn't really feel like the right fit, which can be pretty common when you first start therapy, you're not going to gel with everyone. That's very normal. So with BetterHelp, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost. They have over 30,000 therapists in their network, so there's a much wider range of expertise, so the chances of you finding someone that's a really, really amazing fit are much higher than there might be available in your area. Over 4 million people have used BetterHelp to start living healthier, happier lives. I am definitely one of them. I love online therapy so much. So you can click the link in the description box or visit betterhelp.com/Nika, and that will give you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. So the first rule is to realize that it's not your type, but your pattern. I'm sure you've heard about this on TikTok or Instagram, but this is a very, very practical exercise where you can fully see this and finally break the pattern. It's called the ghost partner, and it's amazing because you can do it anytime. So if you're single, if you're dating, if you're in a relationship, doesn't matter. You're gonna grab a piece of paper and you're gonna write up to 5 names of your most significant partners. So this doesn't necessarily have to be a boyfriend, but just someone who really impacted you or where you had a really strong connection, even if it lasted for like 3 months, okay? So let's say we have Chad, Brad, and Jack, and under each name, you're gonna write a list of positive and negative qualities that they had. So you're gonna do this with every single one. And then you're gonna look at all of these lists and you're gonna circle the positive qualities that keep repeating, and then you're gonna highlight the negative qualities that keep repeating. So let's say 2 out of 3 guys were really bad communicators. Let's say 3 out of 3 of them were very spontaneous or had really good style. And then 2 out of 3 of them were emotionally unavailable. And then you're gonna draw a circle. You're gonna draw a line going through it, and on the top, you're gonna write a list of those positive traits that kept repeating, and on the bottom, the list of negative traits that kept repeating. And that is your ghost partner. That is who you are actually subconsciously attracted towards. We all say we want someone who is loving and kind and supportive and emotionally available and all these things, and then a lot of us end up with someone who is not really like that. That is because when we say that list, we're operating from our conscious mind, but most of your mind is unconscious, something you're not aware of. So when you have really, really high chemistry with someone, when you meet someone, you're like, oh my God, I'm so drawn to this person, almost to the point where you're like anxious about it. It's because your subconscious mind is recognizing this pattern in them. There's a reason for why you're so attracted to someone with these qualities. It usually has a lot to do with our upbringing. But to keep it really simple, number one, you're going to bring this pattern to the surface, to your subconscious mind, which you've already done through doing this exercise. Number two, you're going to ask yourself, if I choose this kind of person again, where is that realistically going to lead me to? If it does eventually lead to a relationship, how is that relationship going to look like, and how am I actually going to feel in that relationship? You basically need to get to a point where you see it very, very clearly and you decide whether you want to keep choosing that or you don't. Because the big point here, and step number 3, is to realize that you are choosing it, okay? Unless you're forced into a relationship against your will, which I really hope is not happening to you, you are choosing these men, okay? You're the common denominator here. And then if you want to explore this further and understand yourself more to really break this pattern, you can ask yourself, what is the hidden positive benefit of me choosing these men over and over again? Anything we choose, there's always a positive reason behind it. Even if it's something very destructive, like an addiction, for example, the positive hidden benefit is that if you're addicted to a substance, when you take it, it numbs you out. You don't have to feel, you can kind of put your problems on pause. That is a positive reason, even though it's very destructive. So you need to figure out what that hidden positive reason is for you. So let's say you keep choosing guys with a lot of issues that you then try to fix. Even though that might be very destructive and you end up being in relationships that you don't actually like, the hidden positive benefit here could be that you're doing this so that you then don't have to think about your problems because they're a mess. So you compared to them are like the queen of having your life together, and you don't have to focus on the fact that you might not be so happy in your career, and maybe you feel like you're not really passionate about many things, and now you can put all that on hold because you have a whole project over here to focus on instead. So figure out what that hidden positive benefit is, and once you do all of this, if you want to, of course, when you then go on a date with someone, you recognize this pattern straight away. Like date 1, you can see it. You're like, I've seen this before. I'm very familiar with this. And then it's up to you if you want to decide to keep choosing that or not. And now you know what that's probably going to lead to. Rule number 2, this might be a bit of a niche one, but it's something I really had to hear when I was younger. And that is that chemistry does not equal compatibility. I would always go for guys where when I met them, it was like crazy intense chemistry. It's one of those where it's so intense where you almost feel anxious all the time and you kind of put your whole life on pause because it is so intense, okay? And I kept choosing that because in my mind, that's what I was supposed to go for. Like, it feels so intense, like obviously this should be it. Wrong, okay? Very, very wrong. Because have you ever gone for someone like that and it ended up being like a secure, healthy, happy relationship? I've never seen that in my life. It's always toxic every single time. One thing that my therapist told me that literally changed this forever, I've never gone for a person like that ever since, is to imagine chemistry on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being you've got no chemistry, you do not want them to touch you, maybe friendship, maybe. 10 is like, I am obsessed with you. Like, this is like an addiction, like really, really intense. If you go for that 9, 10, really, really high chemistry, it's pretty much guaranteed it's gonna be toxic. It's like the firework. It's amazing, it's beautiful, it doesn't last long. You also don't want someone with like 0 or very low chemistry. Like obviously if it's a romantic relationship, you need chemistry. Otherwise, it's a friend. So you want like a sweet spot, which is like 7, 8. That's like perfect. So when you go on a date with someone like that, what it's supposed to feel like, because I had no idea. I either met guys where I had no chemistry and was like, ugh, I'm bored out of my mind, or I would meet these like intense, like high chemistry. So I was like, what is it even supposed to look like? This is what it's supposed to look like, okay? You go out with someone, you're not bored, okay? They have great qualities that you can see. You're not super anxious and jittery, like they put you at ease. If they were to lean in and kiss you, you would not be disgusted, okay? Or want to run away. How you're supposed to feel after the date is that you felt comfortable, you felt like you could be yourself, and you're intrigued. You're like, oh my God, I had a great time. They seem amazing, and I want to know more. But you don't have that like obsessive anxiety feeling. It's very important to distinguish those things because I was genuinely so confused. You want to look for a fireplace, not fireworks. As we've mentioned, fireworks, they're amazing. They don't last long. A fireplace is something that's gonna continuously keep you warm. And it's not boring, okay? It feels comfortable and safe. It's not boring though. And there are people like that for you. You've just been focused on the wrong ones, okay? I promise you. The third dating rule is that you're actually going to make up your own rules. These are going to be more like conditions. So if this person does X, Y, Z, if they communicate this way, if they act this way, if they make me feel this way, then they get access to me. Okay? And you can write separate lists for this is what I need to see from them. This is how I need to feel in order to even go on a first date, in order for them to get a second date, in order for them to get access to my body. Like have those conditions set in place. So what these conditions should look like. For me, for example, for a first date, I want someone who takes initiative. So I want someone who confidently asks me out. I want someone who makes an actual plan. And I want someone who checks in the night before or the morning of to make sure that the date is still on. Those are just 3 very simple conditions that I have based on who I eventually want to be with. Obviously, I also want to be attracted to him and interested, like, of course, but if he doesn't check off those things, I am not going on that first date. When it comes to access to your body, it's like you probably want to see someone who's very consistent, who's caring, prioritizes seeing you and taking you on dates, who you feel comfortable and safe with. Like these lists are going to look different. These are like boundaries, so it's your job to keep up with them. That is no one else's responsibility but your own, okay? And this is an amazing way to make sure that you're actually dating someone who you want a future with, someone that makes you feel good about yourself, someone that makes you feel like you do have value, instead of someone who just makes you feel like you can be easily discarded. Like set those rules in place and stick to them. That is your responsibility. It's up to you what you allow and the kind of standards you set for yourself. When you make these lists though, make sure there are like genuine things on there that will actually make a difference for how you feel with the person, not so much like ego-driven things like I need him to pick me up in whatever Mercedes, I need him to give me thousands of euros. Like, I mean, if that's important to you, go ahead. But these should be things that are genuinely going to make a big difference with how you feel about yourself and in this relationship. Sticking to the whole conversation about value, of course, it's amazing to choose someone who makes you feel amazing about yourself, but you first need to understand your own value. One little mindset trick that really helped me is to see self-worth and value, like every single person has an equal amount of it. So you can see that worth as like light that's coming in through the window. So there's the same amount of light coming through each window, but your window might be a little bit dirty. It doesn't mean that that worth is not there. It just means you need to clean the window. It's something that you definitely have the same amount as everyone else that you just need to realize about yourself. So a great way to do that is to create a self-worth board. So this can look however you want it to look. It can be a Notion page, it can be a simple list, it can be a whole vision board. And this is going to represent all the ways in which you are amazing. So you can put past successes on there, things you've accomplished or achieved in your life, even if they're small. You're going to add your positive qualities. Like just fill this board with anything that shows you like, oh my God, I've actually done so much. I'm actually pretty great. That's how it's supposed to make you feel like, okay? This, even if you're single, is amazing just to see how you are amazing and worthy of the things that you want. But also if you're dating or even if you're in a relationship, it's amazing to see what you bring to the relationship, like why someone would be lucky to have you, because I'm sure they would be. You just need to see it within yourself. So again, clean that window, make that very clear and obvious with yourself, okay? You don't need to go out there and tell every single guy that you're a high value woman and you deserve to be treated XYZ. It is your responsibility to make sure that you hold yourself to those standards, you treat yourself that way, and that you walk away when someone consistently does not do that. And again, that's your responsibility. You don't need to scream it from the rooftops. Actions speak way louder than words do. If someone doesn't see your value, it doesn't mean that it's not there. I have a whole video about real, genuine confidence. I'm gonna link it down below if you want to explore this further. The next rule is to not become obsessed with them, okay? And all the things we've covered so far are gonna help you, but a few extra little tidbits. Instead of acting like you're hard to get, actually become hard to get. When you meet someone that you're genuinely really interested in, especially if you've been single for a while or you've been searching for someone and you finally find them, of course, it's very tempting to want to be with them all the time, to put your whole life on hold because it's exciting. Of course it is. Like, I think that's very normal to feel that way and to want to see them all the time, but you are doing yourself a disservice if you put everything else that matters to you in your life, that's already stable in your life, to the side because this might be something. Don't do that to yourself, okay? So you're gonna keep up with those hobbies. If you go to a reformer, you're gonna keep scheduling those classes. You're not gonna cancel them if he wants to hang out on those specific times. You're gonna put things into your schedule, whether it's hanging out with your friends, going for a walk, going for a run, going on that trip you wanted to go to. Like, do not put those things on hold. If you really like this guy, you've been on a few dates, it's very, very normal to get excited, as we've said, but you don't know him enough for him to be such the highest priority in your life, okay? You don't know him enough to do that, and you should be your number one priority regardless. It's again your responsibility to make yourself happy, even if you are in a relationship. Of course, they add so much to it, and it's such an amazing bonus, obviously. But you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, okay? So just put those things into your schedule and do not cancel them. The next one I heard on TikTok, and I feel like it's a really, really good little tip. I don't know how accurate it is about men. Basically, the concept is that when women do things for men, like let's say you cook for him, you clean for him, you do this surprise for him, whatever, apparently men's reaction is not so much like, oh, she's so amazing, she cleans for me, but it's like, I must be so great that she cleans for me. I must be such an amazing man that a woman would do something like that for. So they put it on themselves. I think this is definitely a generalization. I think it's a little more complex than that, but you can borrow it in like a healthy dose, okay? So when a man does something nice to you, instead of putting it fully on him, of course, you should be grateful, show that you're grateful. He brought me flowers, that's so nice, I'm so grateful, amazing. But to also add that tidbit with it, like I must be so incredible, I must be so beautiful, so smart. Great. Just add a healthy dose of that, okay? And I'm sure there's gonna be men in the comments being like, I am not like that at all. I believe you, okay? I think social media definitely simplifies a lot of things, but that's okay. Can take it in moderation. Next up, you're gonna figure out what you actually want and more importantly, need in a long-term relationship to be happy and satisfied and feel amazing. What are those non-negotiables for you? That is so important to know when you're dating and meeting people, but also later on in a relationship. It makes things so much more simple when you actually know what you need from your partner. Something that makes this very, very clear and obvious is looking back at your past relationships if you've had them already. If not, I've got a different solution, don't you worry. But yeah, looking at those relationships, you can literally sit down and write a list. Like, these are the things that I got in that relationship that were really important to me, that made that relationship good. And then here are the things that were missing that I realized throughout the relationship or after we've broken up were actually really important to me. If you want to look at this a bit further, or if you haven't been in a relationship before, this exercise is really, really helpful. So there are 4 pillars of compatibility: worldview, recreation, and temperament. So you're gonna look at these one by one and see what you actually need for each of them. Again, you can write a list. And then you're gonna look at this list and circle the ones that are non-negotiable. Like, this is what you absolutely need in order to be happy with someone. So the first one is worldview. So these are things like political views, how you want to raise your kids, how you view money. Are you like a small town person, or do you want to travel the world and explore and have amazing experiences? Like, more so big picture things that end up being very, very important. Number 2 is recreation. This is one that I didn't realize how important it actually was until I was in a long-term relationship. Because a lot of the time when you're imagining yourself in a relationship, or you're like fantasizing about you usually imagine like the honeymoon stage or more like big moments. You don't imagine like a random Tuesday morning where you're bored. So recreation is things like, how do you want to spend a Sunday morning? Me, for example, I'm pretty chill, okay? I want to wake up slowly, stay in bed for a little bit, then maybe go for a little stroll to get some coffee or a nice little breakfast, walk around a bit, and then come back. Like, it's all very slow, chill, okay? If I was dating someone who wants to be up at 5 a.m. to go on a hike, and after a hike he wants to do a zip line and then visit his family, I would lose my mind, okay? That is way too much activity for one day for me, and I do not want to spend my free day in that way, okay? So that would be a consistent issue in that relationship down the line, because one of us would always have to sacrifice what we want to do. You can see this very clearly if you've ever went traveling with a friend and it just just did not go over well. Like they wanted to go to 10 billion museums, wanted to have a whole itinerary, wanted to have an activity to fill out every single part of the day. And then you might be someone who just wants to walk around, go to a random little shop here and there, a cafe, maybe see that nice church, sure, but like you want to take it easy. It's not going to be very compatible, okay? And this ends up being so important down the line. It's something you might not realize in the honeymoon stage because it's all so exciting and new. But then once real life settles in, these are the things that actually count. It's very, very important. Trust me. And you probably don't want someone who's exactly like you, but the vibe should be pretty similar. So I'm quite reserved, but I do like someone who takes me out of my comfort zone. I do like to date someone who's a bit more social than I am. But if they wanted to be with people 24/7, wanted to go to all these events, hang out with all these people every single second of the day, I would lose my mind, okay? We're not on the same wavelength. It's not gonna work. The next one is very obvious. If you're someone who's very adventurous, playful, and you're dating someone who is very like conservative, you're not going to be satisfied or happy. The last one is basic temperament. So these are things like, are they an introvert, an extrovert? Are they passive? Are they very assertive? Are they even-tempered and like chill? Or are they very like aggressive or impulsive? I'm going to have a little wheel that I found where it shows like different kinds of temperaments to make this one a little bit easier to decipher. One extra thing that I feel like is really, really important to look for that's not on this list is affection. First of all, like how much affection do you actually need? I didn't know until I was in a committed relationship that I actually need quite a lot of it. I am actually very affectionate. I did not know that about myself before. And then what kind of affection do you need? You can look at love languages to figure this out. There's a quiz that you can find online, which makes it really, really simple. But I'm very like quality time, words of affirmation, physical touch. Like that is what I like, and that is how I show love and how I receive it. So if I'm with someone who's not doing those things, but they bring me very extravagant gifts or do this extravagant surprise, like that's not gonna mean that much to me. Of course, I'm gonna appreciate it, but like if we don't have quality time, if you're not affectionate with your words and with like physical touch, I'm gonna look at that and be like, okay, well, thank you. Obviously, it's very nice, but like, I don't feel loved because you're not doing the things that are actually important to me. So that is another one that I feel like should be added to this compatibility list. And then last, but certainly not least, and I can make a whole video about this, I feel like it can be a pretty big topic, but it's to start believing that this is possible for you, okay? Because if you have a very negative mindset, you have a lot of limiting beliefs, it's gonna make this much harder and less enjoyable. So I would literally write down a list of like things that I keep repeating to myself about men, about relationships. For you, it might be like every single man cheats, they all lie, no relationship ever works out, like what's even the point? There's no good men out there anymore, blah, blah, blah. Like those are very limiting things that are actually in reality not true. It might be true with your perspective, but they're not universally true. Like I know so many amazing guys that are not like that at all. I know so many amazing couples that are really, really happy. Like it does exist, okay? And you need to change that mindset. Again, it's your responsibility and no one can change it but you. Make it something that's actually beneficial and helpful. So write down those negative beliefs. If you want to, you can go one by one and change each one. I have a whole video about changing your beliefs that I'll link down below. But even just writing it down and being like, I'm gonna start repeating this to myself because this is not what I want, so why do I keep repeating it? Even if you're not into like manifestation and all of that, like I'm not that much into it, but I know with myself, like for example, if you wanna buy a red car and you're researching red cars, like you're figuring out which one you want to get, all of a sudden you see red cars everywhere. Like all of a sudden the whole world is full of red cars. There were the same amount of red cars in the world before, you just did not notice them because you did not pay attention. It wasn't a part of your perspective. So stop saying those negative limiting beliefs, the things that you actually don't want. Stop engaging in those conversations. Stop saying that to yourself and look for proof of why there are amazing guys and amazing relationships. You can even have a note on your phone that's like proof of why amazing men and love actually exists. And anytime you notice something, you point it out, you write it down, okay? Whether you need to find couples online, even if it's fictional characters, if you see a lovely couple holding hands, like anything, just start pointing it out and it will become like that red card that you all of a sudden see everywhere, and that will change your own perspective and you'll actually see it as something that's possible for you. Because why do you think you don't deserve that? Like, why do you think that's not possible for you? Of course it is. And also become that way yourself. Like, start showing more love to the people in your life. Like, instead of looking for love, become love. I know that sounds very cheesy, but it really does change your mindset, and you realize that you don't need to look out for it. It's actually everywhere all around you already. It might not be in a romantic relationship form, but it already is everywhere. And so that romantic love is possible for you. That was a lot. I feel like I've chatted your ear off. So if you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to stick around and subscribe and check out my social media if you want to see more of my personal life. Let me know what other videos you want to see. I really hope this was helpful, and I'm going to see you very, very soon.